Hi, welcome to my podcast, Becoming a Cut Flower Grower. I'm your host, Lydia, and I'm here to share my year of growing and selling cut flowers. I'll be giving you the lowdown on everything I'm doing and sharing all the highs and lows, the good times and the inevitable disasters, all in real time. Join me on my cut flower journey, starting right now. Hey, it's Lydia here. Welcome to the latest episode. It's Tuesday, the 15th of July, 2025 in the afternoon. It's been a really overcast and windy day today, and disappointingly no rain because I really thought it was going to rain, but no, nothing doing there. I hope you're well and thank you for joining me. So, I'm going to kick off with some good news and some bad news. So, the good news is that the champagne has moved into the fridge because I have a dahlia just about opened. So, in fact, I've got two, and the outer petals have opened, and I'm just waiting for the centers to come out. So, that is wildly exciting. And the bad news is that one of the chickens passed away, bless her. So, Pearl has gone on to chicken heaven, and she was actually one of my other half birds, and she came to live with me 18 months ago. And she was one of those little birds that really flew under the radar. She was so low maintenance, really easy. You just nothing happened in her life that caused me any drama or aggravation. She always looked immaculate. She never did anything naughty. She never got into any trouble, and she really did just completely go under the radar. And I have a couple like that, and every so often I look at them and think, gosh, you're actually really lovely, or you're really pretty, or you're really sweet. And I just sort of don't look at those ones or see them so much because some of them just take up all of your headspace. The ones that are getting into little scrapes or little accidents or that are just very noisy. I've got some of them that are just constantly very, very loud and draw a lot of attention to themselves. And Pearl didn't, bless her. She was just very quiet, understated lady and very short life. She only lived for 3 years, which I think is, it's no time at all. And she just passed away of old age, which is really refreshing. And she was with the girls right up until the end. And then she had her last night in a rabbit hutch by herself because I just knew she was going to go. And I didn't want Naughty Mo to do anything naughty overnight. So we said our goodbyes to her and we thanked her for spending time with us and put her to bed. And yeah, she's flown off to chicken heaven, bless her, but she will be greatly missed. She was a lovely little girl. And some other sort of bad news, but you've got to laugh about these things. When I went up to the plot on Monday, I thought something just was a little bit different. And on the field, there are shipping containers, which are nothing to do with me. It's the owner of the field has them, and there was a new one being delivered, and it was going to be sited in a place that was absolutely chock full of cow parsley, pink hogweed, ragwort, which is wonderful for the pollinators, and this really lovely area that my other half doesn't strim. He just leaves it, and it was absolutely rammed. I can't tell you. And the most stunning grasses as well, really, really beautiful tall grasses. And the whole thing had been completely razed to the ground, strimmed to the ground, just nothing there. So that this static shipping container can be sited there. And the irony, I just thought, oh my goodness, I wish I'd known because I could have cut everything and picked it and enjoyed it. Or, yeah, just really weird and such a beautiful little space now just underneath a shipping container. But there you are. This is how it goes. But that was a little bit interesting. And what was I going to talk about? I was going to talk about what I've been up to this week, because I know the last episode was all very calm and relaxing, and it was me wandering around the plot talking about everything that was going on. And my mother listened to it actually, and she came around to the plot the other day. And she walked past the scabious and she said, I've no idea why you're growing that. She said, it grows naturally by the side of the road. And she wasn't being mean. It was literally just an observation. She's absolutely right because I'm driving around and everywhere I go this year, I see scabious growing on the side of the road. And I think, gosh, I can't believe the effort that I've gone to grow something that is literally just on the side of the road. So I remember when I was choosing them and I thought, oh, what a beautiful flower. This will be amazing. This will be gorgeous. And then you realize you just growing something that's on the side of the road. So today I wanted to talk a bit about prepping that I've been doing for some weddings. So for me, supplying my lovely florist this weekend for a wedding and the one after for a wedding. And then also, I have a question really, which is something that's been bothering me in the last 2 weeks or so, which is you might be able to give me some feedback on this. I would really appreciate it to hear what you think. I'm not sure at which point I should tell people that I meet to do with cut flowers that I have a podcast, because I've made a point of being very open and honest on the podcast, and I talk to you about things that I've done and people I've spoken to and seen. And when I went down and I met the grower in Cornwall in one of the June episodes, after I'd, done the visit and we were just walking back up to her house, I said, I've got a podcast and I'd love to talk about this. Would you mind? And she said, no, 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 it's absolutely fine. But I don't do that in all of my interactions with people. In fact, I think that's the only one. And I'm feeling now that I should perhaps say to people, I have a podcast. May I talk about this in case anybody's uncomfortable? Now, I know somebody else said to me the other day, don't go into details about me on the podcast. And I'm like, absolutely. I'm so happy that you've been honest enough to say, don't talk about me, because I don't know, I just love talking to you. I love sharing stuff, and it's maybe I have some kind of issue with not realizing that some things should be kept private, and it's not my intention to upset anybody. But I also don't want to come across as like go into a room and just be like, oh hey, I've got a podcast. And that's not the main thing that I do. The main thing is the cut flowers, and the podcast is me talking about it. So it is secondary to the cut flowers, because if I didn't have them I wouldn't have a podcast. So it's trying to find some kind of balance between having normal conversations with people and being able for me to talk to you about it, because I guess you're interested or you wouldn't be here, but also asking permission from people about how they feel about me reporting on what I've said. Do you see what I'm getting at? It's a bit of a conundrum. Just over the last couple of weeks, it's just kind of dawned on me that I'm having interactions with people, and at what point do I say that I would like to be talking about this? But I also don't want to have to then self censor if somebody says, "Oh, don't talk about me," because it might be something that I really want to talk about that's really relevant. And I've shared everything with you over the last 6 months. So I don't want to have to get to a point where I can't talk to you about things, because then it's going to be really odd. Um, so if any of us, if you're connected with me and you've got an opinion, I would so love to hear what you think, because I'm very conscious about not getting this wrong and upsetting people, or they shut themselves away from me because they don't want to be reported on or spoken about. And I would also hate for people to feel uncomfortable about that. Okay, that would be great. Thank you. So I have been preparing for a wedding this weekend, and I'm supplying some stems to my lovely florist. And I have really, really been struggling with pricing ever since I started this whole actually having to sell something. It's really, really getting under my skin now, and I just don't know how to do it. And I've been, very open with my florist and said I don't know how to do it, and said I'm happy to negotiate on prices and things. But I'd love to get to a point where it doesn't have to be like that. And maybe I'm coming up against this problem because I'm so new and I don't know what I'm doing. So I'm guessing in a year's time I'll have more of an idea of what stems cost and what my production costs are. Because I was listening to another podcast and they were saying, you need to, this is from Trademark Farmer, and Jenny there is absolutely incredible. And she's all about collecting data and analyzing it and understanding like your production costs and literally how much it's cost you to produce a square meter of a particular cut flower, which I get. But I'm not going to have all of that data until like the end of the year, when I've done a full year, because the plants are still producing. So I might cut all of my calendula stems and say, oh, okay, well, it cost me that much to produce, but actually then they all flush again and you have another whole load of stems to sell. So the pricing is tricky. And if you benchmark against wholesale prices, it's really an inaccurate way of doing it in a way. Like it gives you a sort of a sense of where you might be at. But if the flowers are coming in from the Netherlands, coming in from Holland, we know that their governments have heavily subsidized the industry. So their growers, who are also producing at an enormous scale, are able to produce volumes at a particular price um, in a different way than it costs to produce something here. So I'm finding that quite tricky. And also the stem lengths of the imports, if you benchmark against those, some of them are really, really enormous. And, some things are like 60, 65, 70, 75, 80 centimeters long. And don't get me wrong, I've got some tall things like the Achillea, which I thought I would have sold an absolute ton of, and just that's not really flying yet this year. But the point is that not all of my stems have been as long as like the imports are. And in fact, some of them are just tiny, like my Amimagus, which is going off for bud vases this weekend. Really tiny. It's like a tiny, tiny little, tiny dwarf little thing. So again, I mean, do you just take the full size price and just chop it down, or come up with something? I mean, do you sell the stem that is on the plant for, say, the stem is 40 centimeters? Do you price it for 40 centimeters and then it's up to the florist to just cut the bottom off and stick it in a bud vase? Or do you just cut the top 10 centimeters off and sell it to the florist at a 10 centimeter price? I have not worked that out again. And I don't know, maybe it's me being stupid and I need to just do a whole ton more research on the internet to find out the answer to that. But so far, I've not come up with the answer. And I just, yeah, I have found it incredibly difficult this week. And yeah, it's just a little bit stressful to get it right. And then I feel like if the florist doesn't come back and negotiate, does that mean I priced too low? And uh, do you know what I mean? I almost feel like I want to price too high so that she can come back and go, oh, no, no, no. Because until somebody actually pushes back, you haven't priced high enough. But then I think, oh no, maybe that's not the right way either. I don't want her to just be like, oh, I'm not using Lydia. She's far too expensive. And she doesn't speak in that voice either. I don't know where that came from. So you get the dilemma. So I've been going around counting up what I will have available. And, the stem length is a part of the um, quotes that I make. So here's what I have available. Here's the stem length. Here's the price. And here's the number that I'm going to have available. And then, of course, you have to make sure that everybody carries on performing beautifully up until the point that you cut them and hand them over, which is actually two separate things. So I'm going to be cutting tomorrow morning, Wednesday, and then florist is coming to collect them on Thursday. And yeah, I was hoping that we would have a massive dollop of rain today and really set everybody up for tomorrow, which hasn't happened. So yeah, so there's just been a lot going on with that. And then I'm also mindful that there's a wedding the weekend after. So I'm thinking, what am I going to have for that? And I'm actually doing some little lavender plants for that. And that's a whole other level of stress, that is, I can tell you, because you want to I want to have them flowering all out all at the same time, looking amazing. And so getting them prepped for that, because they all had to be potted on in the right soil vermiculite mix so that they, stayed fresh and healthy, but they didn't sort of drown and get too waterlogged. So yeah, there's a lot of forward thinking and forward planning, and yeah. So it's not that I don't love it. It's just you're always sort of looking one step ahead, and just some days it's just a bit. It's a lot some days. Now, I have been, sorry, I was just looking at my list there and I've covered everything. I did want to talk about cover crops, but I'm going to talk about that in another episode actually, because there's quite a bit to talk about with that. And that's just come off the back of me um, still putting more seedlings out, and I have waited till obviously the third heat wave is over and it's gone now. And I've been putting more seedlings out because I had loads and loads of straw flowers and also more zinnias to go out. And what's been really interesting is the different soil conditions as you move across the plot. And that's because for a few years I've been growing vegetables on it. And then obviously last year I had my trial beds. This year's the first proper year. And as I've kind of acquired more and more little bits of land to grow on, within the fence panels, the soil conditions have changed, and what's been cultivated for a couple of years is absolutely superb. And then as you move into the less cultivated areas, it obviously tails off a bit. Now it's all had chickens on it for years, so it's all nice and fertile and everything. It's just been interesting to see where I've put certain plants in. They've done really, really well. And then I made the mistake of putting some of the annuals into the area where Nigel lifted the turf for me. And obviously they've struggled enormously because there's just not enough organic matter in the soil. It's clearly not retaining enough water. And so it's been interesting. So I've been looking into the cover crops for what to be putting down, particularly for the rest of the summer. And I think I might actually just do a little bit more research on that and then talk about that in another episode. So I'm going to draw this one to a close, much like this episode, rather, much like the nights are really drawing in. And I don't want to be negative or miserable about it, because I spoke to someone the other day and they were like, oh yeah, I can't wait for winter to be here. Yeah, it'll be amazing. I'm so excited. And I thought, wow, that is not how I'm feeling about it. And because I wait for the chickens to go into bed every night, I can tell, I know exactly what time it is when I leave. And the nights are very much drawing in, and it just feels like the sun has just dropped in the sky. It's a really funny feeling. And I think I'm hypersensitive to it now in a way that I wasn't even when I was gardening, and I was super sensitive to it then, but I have really, really noticed. And there are blackberries like ripe on the tree, on the plants. My oriental lilies are on their way out, and it really feels like summer's over. Is that too dramatic to say that? I always feel it's really strange in the UK. It might be a hang up from my childhood, but for me, summer is like July, August. Like that is summer because that is when you have your summer holidays. And then when you get to the age I am now, you kind of think summer was May, really, May, June at the latest. And then July, August starts feeling autumny. And there's just, yeah, I've got pears this time for, well, I've been here for 11 years and I normally get one pear per tree per year. And I only have one tree. And it's a competition between me and the squirrel to see who gets it. And some years I've been successful. This year, I probably have about 20 plums, 20 pears rather on the tree. And I have a plum on the plum tree. And they're all ripening. And for me, fruit ripening is much more of an autumny thing. It's not now. It's not the middle of July. It's such a crazy season. I mean, this one will go down in the history books as the most challenging season. And I thought last year was bad, where it just rained constantly, but this is like another level. Anyway, I hope that's a positive note to end on. It's not meant to be negative. I don't mean to be negative at all. There are many joys with winter, and yeah, no, I can't do it. I can't sell winter to anybody. I hate winter. Okay, that is me. I will be back on Friday with some more updates and some more news. And I also have news of some marketing, which I've been doing, which, do you know what? That's a really horrible way of saying, actually, that I've just been in contact with some local florists and invited them to the plot to come and see what I'm growing and meet me and see the setup and see if we could work together. Not calling that marketing. I'm really excited to meet people. But if anybody, going back to my initial question about when do I tell people that I'm a podcaster, if you could help me, if we're connected on Instagram, please send me a DM. Tell me what you think I should do. I don't want to sound like hey, I'm a podcaster, like a really narcissistic person up front, but yeah, I'm getting my knickers in a twist over that one. Anyway, I'm going to stop rabbiting. I will see you on Friday. Please come back and join me for the next episode. Have a wonderful rest of the week. Happy growing wherever you are.